Lost Art with Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. thelostart.podbean.com. Get some merchandise and help support the podcast in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Now on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be a guest, tell your veteran story, discuss your veteran business or organization. Email The Lost Art with Andrew Cox at gmail.com. Andrew Cox, a Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. See the project story at tillvalhallaproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy the podcast that's giving a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a My Veteran Story. But before we get in the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? And go to the Lost Art website. That's the lostart.podbean.com. Go check it out, see what's going on there. There is a merchandise tab. You can click on that merchandise tab, get you a cool hat, a shirt, a mug, get you something. Help support us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Also, big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project. I want to thank them for allowing me to be an ambassador for that great organization. But if you don't know anything about them, go check it out. That's tillvalhallaproject.com. Again, if you can help them in any way, please do so. All right. With that, I got Mike Yager here. Mike, how you doing?
Doing really well. How are you doing today?
Oh, man, I can't complain. We're getting to redo this, and I'm excited. So
it happens.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, hey, man, let's go ahead and start at the beginning again, and like where you grew up, and then kind of walk us through that, and then what drew you into military service.
Sure. So I grew up in New Hampshire. One of those states that you never hear about unless there's an election. And what drew me to the military? So I had a uncle that was in the military, died in Vietnam. I was named after him. So I've always had kind of that connection, that just the, that sense that someone went before me, and, that my family thought enough to name me after him. So it was always kind of in my mind. But I was a tuba player. I was, about junior year of high school, thinking, okay, what universities do I want to go to? Started applying all over the place, and then realized that costs money. So I started looking at my options. This Marine recruiter talked to me, and I figured, why not give it a shot? 2 enlistments later, I gave it a shot.
Nice. And then was that the only recruiter that you talked to? Was it just the Marine recruiter? Who all did you talk to?
No, so I spoke with a Marine recruiter from the Marine Corps, or in general?
No, just in general, like as going to a recruiting station or whatever. A lot of times they're all in one place. Yeah. So I was wondering if it's the same type of deal or.
Yeah. So the Marine Corps and Navy, I think, had a shared utility or shared office, or shared space, I should say. But I did speak because I was going in marine music. I spoke with a really good friend of mine's father, who was I don't know, Air Force rank, an E9, in the Air Force band program. Talked to him about it, and he's like, well, if you like jazz, go in the Air Force. I was a tuba player. What's jazz? I talked to a couple other folks, and eventually, through the Marine recruiter, they put me in contact with the, it's been 20 years, I can't remember the term.
Musician technical assistant, I think is what it is.
Marty Rector. And it talked me into it, and, the rest is history.
Still and then friends with her. To the races.
So that's good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm friends with her on Facebook, but I've never really served with her or anything, but I've met her a couple of times. She's a nice lady.
Yeah.
She's pretty funny though, that's for sure.
Yeah, she's got a definite sense of humor.
Yeah, for sure. So and then what year was this that you were getting ready to go in the Marine Corps?
1996. I went in
96. Okay. So you join in 96. And you go ship off to boot camp. So talk to me a little bit about the processes, and then once you're there, what did you think about boot camp?
So the process, I was in Drum and Bugle Corps for 4 years. leading up to this. So I kind of had the mindset of, okay, this is going to be regimented. They're going to play little mess with you games and stuff.
Yeah.
We got done with DCI finals. I went home. I think 3 or 4 days later, I went to boot camp. So I was,
Oh, wow.
kind of in that mindset.
Yeah.
It was a shocking experience. If for no other reason, 24 hours without sleeping, getting off a airplane and going straight into that. My boot camp experience was, I hate to say it, a lot of fun.
Okay.
It
Good.
was, I mean, it was physically challenging. I think day one, I figured out, oh, they're just doing things to mess with us. So,
Yeah.
keep that in mind. And it was, I could eventually just take over. So that's what I do.
That is true. They just mess with you. And some people don't figure that out, like all the way to the end. I'm like, I figured it out a little quick too. I mean, not quite as fast as you, but I did figure it out fairly quick. But man, who's gonna mess with you?
It was fun, Hey, okay, I'll get in shape and deal with people yelling at me. It's like my childhood.
Very nice. All right. So was there anything that stood out to you in boot camp as you were there?
I think I learned everyone kind of the hackneyed phrase. I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
The things that stand out that I learned were mostly, so I was the knowledge recruit. I was the one who would stand there with that little book and read out facts. I learned very quickly that I can speak loudly. I can get a group's attention, and I'm really good at memorizing facts. So, something that
nice
I use every day. But the other thing I learned is how to work across cultures, education, experience. I was from New Hampshire. I had traveled around just in drum corps, so it was a little bubble. But I mean, there were aspects of culture I'd never been exposed to, outside of television, and I quickly had to learn, okay, how to understand where people are coming from and what their experience is, and how that frames everyday interactions.
Yeah, and you use that. Well, heck, I've used it the rest of my life. So yeah, definitely comes in handy. All right, so you finish boot camp, and then at this point, go to MCT. Is that right?
I went on recruiter's assistance. For 5 months. They were waiting for a tuba spot to open at the school.
Wow.
So I left. Actually, did I go to MCT first? I went to MCT first.
Okay.
And then I went on recruiter's assistance for 5 months.
Wow. And was that back home?
Yeah, it was back home. It was, I definitely recognize that's not an experience everyone has.
Yeah.
So, went through boot camp, went home for, it might have been 4 months, helped out on the recruiting station, kind of learned the finer points of sales and how to talk to people who don't want to talk to you. And then I went to the School of Music.
I mean, you're at that point, you were what, PFC, and you're out there helping the recruiting mission, which is pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Again, I grew up in what I say is a small town. There's 23,000 people or so. Everyone knew me. So me trying to go out and sell the Marine Corps to people that I had been around since I was 4 years old, they were like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Well, did you end up getting anybody in? Like,
I did. Few people. What is his first name? There's a few folks actually that I got into the Marine music program.
Oh, okay.
Mostly from the surrounding area because they didn't know.
Yeah. Well, there's always more than one town that you're going to, so that helps. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool. And then, okay, so you do find now during that time, was there anything that jumped out at you while you were doing that? Like good, bad experience, anything like that?
Um, how to deal with bureaucracy and
Mm.
paperwork. Um, and that's not a bad thing. I say that like it's a bad thing. There's documentation processes for a reason.
Oh yeah.
Um, so just learned how to navigate that. I
Right.
also learned how to, I guess it framed the rest of my career. So I mean, I knew I was gay going into the Marine Corps. This
Yeah.
was during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So I kind
Oh
of
right. Yeah.
learned how to navigate that experience and
Mm.
what to say, when, what not to say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Probably to my detriment, but
Well, and that is one of the things that I kind of want to hone in on at some point, whenever you're ready to hone in on it. But
sure.
throughout your career, as you were, coming in, you knew you were gay. Don't ask, don't tell. How did that one affect you personally? Because I know that wasn't easy.
Mm.
But what was kind of going through your mind during all that?
So the first, I guess, realization of what I was doing was, when I was signing up and going through the enlistment contract,
Yeah.
and Don't Ask, Don't Tell was new, or relatively new. I remember my recruiter kind of going through the paperwork, and there was that block that said, "I will not engage in any homosexual activities, nor have I ever," and blah blah blah. And
Oh, right. Yeah.
he's like, "We're going to cross through that now, and you're going to sign it." I'm like, "If you're crossing through it, why do I need to sign and acknowledge?" But that was the "we're not going to ask," and this is that you're not going
Oh,
to
I
tell.
see. Yeah, yeah.
Um, it was, in politics aside, I think it put a lot of people in really difficult situations. I had a number of friends outside the band field
Hmm.
who, um, you know, were kicked out.
Yeah,
Thankfully, their other than honorable and bad conduct discharges have since been overturned, or the
that's
ability to
good.
overturn them um, is there. But I had to be, in my mind, this is
Hmm.
world according to Mike. I had to be better than everyone else,
Yeah.
because anytime I gave someone an angle or a piss people off, I knew
Yeah.
that they had a tool in their chest that they could use
Mm,
against me that I couldn't use against them. So I
right.
just always had to make sure my T's were crossed and I's were dotted.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine it's pretty stressful
Oh yeah,
having to deal with that, and then of course you had friends like you were saying that had gotten kicked out, which obviously puts even more stress on it when you're hearing those types of things. So
yeah,
yeah, I could definitely see how the pressure would be on there.
yeah. In addition to everything else that was going on in the military,
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's not exactly peaceful, a serene life, but
Yeah.
it's a good life. I'm glad people do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, all right, so let's see where we were. School of Music, you would finally get there. You were 5 months and then moving to the School of Music. So tell me about that experience.
Uh, I realized I'm a marginal tuba player. Um,
Okay.
I thought I was, can I swear? I thought I was
Yeah, oh yeah, it
oh,
doesn't matter. It's
okay.
it's not for children. Let's put it
Okay,
that way. That's what I
perfect.
have to click.
Got it. So I thought I was a shit.
Yeah.
I was, what I thought was, the best in my local region and everything.
Yeah.
Quickly, quickly realized, oh, these people are good. Um, so remember my statement about always having to be better than everyone else? That was
Yeah.
my first kind of foible in that chain. Uh,
Mm,
but I quickly learned, you know, the importance of getting out in the community and making friends kind of outside of the
mm,
people that I spend 24/7 with. Uh,
yeah.
I made, friends that I still have today who were stationed in Norfolk, and um, you know, I was on mandatory practice. I, had to
Mm,
do all the normal um, marine obligations and military obligations.
Yeah.
But I learned how to step away from that and go, okay, where are my friends, my people that I can get away from,
Yeah.
and not talk about work.
Yeah. Very important. Very important. You got to unwind and take a step back. That's a very important thing.
Yeah.
And then you struggled a little bit, but I mean, it wasn't bad. I know just about almost everybody at some point got put on mandatory practice. I know I did. So, but as far as that goes, like, was the school difficult?
The academics were not difficult.
Okay.
It was a repeat of what I had done in high school.
Oh, nice. Wow.
The performance aspect was difficult. I think for me, the most difficult part of the curricula was memorizing scales. I
really
cannot memorize scales.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I can understand. Like for drummers, I don't know, like, because I'm just playing patterns, right? So we are lucky that we don't have to know it, if you will. You just play the pattern. But as a tuba player, you got to know those things, man.
And I mean, I know, I still know them. I knew them, but just having to play them so fast, plus the added stress of people are sitting in a room watching me.
Yeah.
That was just, I think it was just the added, what's the word I'm looking for? The added anxiety of people staring at me and listening to what I'm doing.
It's very off-putting, it's not a natural element. I'll say that for sure. Everybody that goes, well, no, not everybody. Some people it doesn't bother at all, but the ones I know that bothers them, they go in but if they perform somewhere, no issues. Like they go in front of 1,000 people and perform, and they're like, yeah, whatever. But get them alone by themselves in that audition room, man. It's a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, it makes better musicians, I suppose.
To a certain degree, I would say. At least they know what it feels like to be nervous, so that's good.
Yeah. I think then the other part is I learned how to, or at least I identified the traits that made a good Marine. Music, okay, that was one thing. But then learning how to work within the Marine Corps hierarchy and understand that side. I picked that up at the school very quickly, especially seeing the differences in services. Good, bad, and different. They all have different missions. So learning how to play the game.
Yeah, which I'm sure come in handy as you moved on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, now you were there for what, 6-7 months, something like that?
I think 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
I never got extended. So whatever the period was. Yeah.
Okay. So then you get orders. And where did you get orders to?
Camp Pendleton. So 1st Marine Division.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Well, tell me about that transition. Now you're going out to the West Coast. So is that your first time on the West Coast, or?
Actually, yeah, it was my first time on the West Coast.
Okay.
No idea what to expect. I remember the first day, no one, they tell you this is how you check into your unit. This is what you need to do. So I'm there in my alphas and I've got my little binder with my service record book in it.
Yeah.
I walk into the band hall at Pendleton. I'm all excited. I'm like, Lance Corporal Yager reporting, whatever. And they're like, put it over there and sit down. That's not the process. The procedure is I salute you, So that was my introduction to, okay, I'm no longer in school now. I'm complete. I remember the inquisition of, all the people that I was in school with who graduated before me. Of course, they're prepping folks for, okay, Yager's showing up, so we know this about him. I was happy to see some friendly faces, but then there was the inquisition of, so what do you, tell us about you. And I'm like, okay, this is where I have to learn. I have to present what they want to see, not necessarily me, because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's not easy. You know what I'm saying? You're portraying something that you're not. I mean, I'm sure there are parts of it that is, but that maybe not is not you,
Yeah.
which is very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of
All right.
inauthentic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good word. I like that. Yeah. That's why you get paid the big bucks. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
suppose. I have a thesaurus on my desk.
Oh, nice. Okay. I know the secrets now.
Yeah.
All right. So you're checking in, you're having these conversations with them. How did that whole process go? Was it a smooth process or?
I guess thinking back on it, yeah, it was smooth. I think in the moment, no, I was terrified.
Yeah,
There were,
that's funny.
yeah, I remember checking in and I didn't have any ribbons, anything at the time.
Yeah.
And the platoon sergeant came out to meet me, and there was it was a dress gig. So I think they were in Deltas or something. And
Okay.
this sergeant comes up with a rack like that. And I'm like trying to figure out what the medals are and stuff. And the hell, I'm in the band. What is that? It's a combat action, right? And just
Nice.
interesting experience. No, he didn't. Uh, he had something. I don't remember, but yeah, he does now.
Yeah, and you remember who that is?
Jeff Fangman.
Yeah. Oh, Fangman. Okay. Yeah. Because he was Desert Storm. He
Yes,
was
I
in
think
during
so.
that. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, but was it a smooth transition? No. Do I look back on it and think it was? Sure. It's definitely one of the more difficult things I had experienced to that point in my life.
Yeah. So getting integrated into the unit, was that like how was that for you?
It was good. I mean, they showed me where my barracks was. They said, "Okay, your uniforms go over here. Learn this
Yeah.
music, this stack of music,
Oh
memorize
yeah.
that, and we'll test you on it." The reality is, I think I played maybe 7 of those songs ever.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was fine. I quickly got out and started doing performances and stuff.
Okay.
It was
How
fun.
long do you think it was before you did your first performance? A couple weeks or?
No, I was out there. Uh, in my mind, it was next day. It
Yeah,
was pretty quick.
that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So you're there at Pendleton, doing your thing. So kind of tell me your experiences moving forward at Pendleton.
Um. It. So I was at Pendleton twice. So I'm separating these in my mind.
Okay,
Uh.
yeah, no, it makes sense.
It was my first enlistment was the fun enlistment.
Uh-huh.
It was. I made great friends. Was out. I was under 21 for the most part on my first enlistment. So
Yeah.
going down to San Diego, having all the fun that one has doing that. Definitely managing okay, I'm going out and partying and having a good time on the weekends, and having to go back and stand in the hot sun all
Yeah.
day.
Oh
So
yeah.
my
Yeah.
stamina definitely was improved. Um, but no, I loved that experience. I think of some of the folks. My first roommates were Jason Wooden and Adrian Yunkins, and
Okay.
Adrian's passed away since then. But the guy was a character. He had skipped the School of Music, um, whatever U2 Alpha. I don't know, whatever that code
Yeah, that
was
sounds right. Yeah.
to pass it. So he was the one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, and he would always go. Never drank a drop of alcohol in his life,
Oh
but
wow.
smoked like a chimney constantly. He had this little brown car called the Turd uh, that everyone
I love
drove.
it.
Um, so we'd go back and forth to San Diego. I'd drop him off at his coffee house, Cafe Lulu, somewhere in the gas lamp
Yeah.
every weekend. And I'd go off and go to Hillcrest or whatever in his car.
Yeah.
The Adrian story is awesome because over the years, that car just got worse and worse. Never had any maintenance or anything. I remember driving back and forth to San Diego using the emergency brake because the regular brakes didn't work.
Oh my God.
And Louis Arce found out about it one day and scheduled a vehicle inspection. And he got in the car behind the old band hall at Pendleton and started the car, started it moving, and the brakes didn't work. So he went up on that hill behind the band hall.
Oh wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but it was a good time. It was a great experience for a kid. Then I got stationed in Okinawa, Third Ma.
Okay.
I loved getting out in Japan. That I think the most interesting part of that was understanding the differences that you get from different leaders. Completely different set of NCO staff, NCOs, and band officer. Different approaches and things. Pendleton was a field band through and through. We did. We were out doing all the necessary Marine Corps stuff.
Standing, practicing standing post, and going out to the field, that type of stuff.
Yeah. I got to Okinawa and it was okay. We're gonna, your military duties are sitting at the duty desk and answering the phone. The rest is band. That was different. Looking back on it, I wish I had the perspective I have today because it would have been a very different experience. And then I re-enlisted there, came back to Pendleton, and I begged to go anywhere but Pendleton. I just wanted a different experience. But yeah, went to Pendleton again. Met some amazing Marines.
Well, can we rewind just a little bit and talk a little bit about Oki and just kind of like what were some of the big things in your mind that were impactful while you were out there?
Being away from home and having getting in touch with people being cost prohibitive. And the time zones. Like if I wanted to call my sister or my mother, it was going to cost me $15 minimum. And I was 12 hours ahead. So there was that sense of loneliness. Even though I had friends there, I felt detached. New Year's Eve, the year 2000. I went
Y2K.
Y2K. Everyone has this Y2K experience, and I'm like, did I miss that?
All I know is they just talked about everything was going to shut down, and nothing ever happened. So
no, we went up to Okuma, the campground. A bunch of us, and I remember, counting down and just it being a very different experience than I thought. And we all walked outside to look to see if we could see any planes falling. We were dumb. They didn't.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Very nice. Now, what did you think about the actual island of Okinawa and then the people?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I again, back to the School of Music and getting away from the people that I see every day. I would get out and try to find the spots on the island where there weren't Americans as much as possible. Not for any so that I could try to experience the culture. It's like a once in a lifetime thing to get stationed in Japan. I tried to pick up some of the language. And the people were fantastic. Once they got past I was there right after all the challenges of the 90s.
And there were quite a few challenges in the 90s. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was one where a guy had raped one of the like a child, like 14-year-old girl or something like that.
I don't remember the details, but that track.
Yeah.
So it was, there was a lot of mistrust of American servicemen, and um, you know, it wasn't always the safest of places, especially for someone to be out alone. But I'd try to get out and meet people and influence, use my charm to make friends. Yeah. I think I did. Um, it is. I look at our being on the island as, again, not political, but we serve a function there. We're helping the Japanese government. It's kind of an obligation after everything that happened, leading up to Okinawa being part of Japan. But I don't know. I've kind of have a mantra of see the world, don't be a dick while you're doing it.
That's a pretty good one to live by right there. You know, yeah, I like that. All right. Well, then you end up back to Pendleton. So different leadership at this point.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different leadership. Chief Warrant Officer Jacob had gone somewhere. I don't remember where. Louis Arce had gone to Okinawa at the same time I did, or shortly thereafter.
Oh, okay.
And then he went back to Pendleton. So I had similar, like the staff NCOs were similar. It was a very different band. Yeah, very, very different band. Good, bad, and different. I think in a lot of ways it was they were doing less for show and more for readiness, which I think they needed that, and it ended up serving us well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, talk to me about because you were there during 9/11.
Yes.
Were you? Yeah. So talk to me, kind of being at division and 9/11 happens. Like, what was the atmosphere like?
So I remember 9/11. I was living off base, and we woke up. So my roommates, I had a Navy corpsman as a roommate, and we were dating, and Navy commander, Navy captain as our landlord.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fraternization.
Hey.
It was a nice house.
I'm sure it was.
I remember watching television and them reporting that the first plane had hit the World Trade Center. I'm like, this is weird. And then, just that feeling of things are changing. Something's going on.
Yeah.
And then I got in my car and I was driving to base, and that's when the second plane hit. And it was, I remember walking into the band hall. It took forever to get on base.
Oh yeah.
Through the back gate there, and we were at Mainside, so it wasn't even that far on base. I remember, going and talking to Master Gun Schweitzer, and him saying, "The world is changing."
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Turn it down just a little bit. But love the guy, but turn it down just a little bit. We're having some issues here. And then, because we didn't know what we were doing at that point, we had gigs scheduled that day.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of uncertainty, and then we just started getting orders. Part of the band went out to provide security at the Naval Hospital on Pendleton. Some were taken to augment the PMO. It's the word for
yeah.
So in business, PMO means something completely different. It's project management office, not.
Not the same. Not the same.
Yeah, to augment that, and then there was a small group kind of left to, tend to the band hall. I don't remember what the rest of that day was. I do remember just the uncertainty of, okay, what's going to happen? What's our role in all this?
Yeah.
And so that was September. Then we just started ramping up with, making sure all of our shots were up to date and doing all
Mm.
the training and stuff. And um, then no, there was quite a bit of time between then and when we deployed. Um, just I remember the uncertainty. That period between 9/11 and deploying. I remember a lot of stuff from my personal life.
Yeah.
But what I was doing in the military, I couldn't tell you under oath. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I imagine you're still out doing gigs,
Yeah.
those types of things, and that was when everyone went into Afghanistan at that point,
Yeah.
uh, if I'm not mistaken, during that year.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure you're still doing regular band functions, and then of course doing the regular band function there is you got to do training as well. So
Yep.
same type of deal.
Yep.
Okay. So at this point, so you're still there at Pendleton doing your thing, normal day-to-day operations at this point. When did you guys find out that, hey, we're going somewhere else?
Um, so we all kind of knew that it was happening. You could tell.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely before Christmas of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we started getting
No.
the no 20 yeah before Christmas 2022 because we deployed in 2020. Oh, sorry, 2003.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Yeah, apparently I'm missing entire decades. So I remember just we got a lot of, okay, be ready within 48 hours notice.
Mm.
There were multiple. It's kind of like any military operation. It's okay, get ready. Okay, you're gonna go. Oh yeah, not now. Okay, get
Yeah.
ready. We're gonna go. We're gonna go all the way to the point of you almost getting on a plane. Then you come back.
Yeah.
And then they sent off a small, an advanced group from the band. And a few
Oh,
days
okay.
later, another group went, and I was part of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So and so as you were deploying, what was your roles and responsibility deploying?
So I was the first squad leader, and you know, responsibility was readiness. Making sure everyone had their gear, all the
Yeah.
administrative side was in order.
Mm-hmm.
And was I the assistant admin chief? I think I was at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was paperwork and working with supply. Okay, are we sending our instruments? Are we not? Again, uncertainty. It's funny as I think back to it. I remember very vividly things from my personal life, but leading up to the deployment, not much on the military side. It's kind of interesting.
Huh.
I do remember Neil Tusing and I were out at uh, In-N-Out Burger in
Mm.
in Oceanside, and us having to go back to base because it was the final. Okay, you're getting the notice in 24 hours. You're deploying,
Yeah.
and us just having the conversation like everything changes. You know,
Yeah.
everything changes, and going back and telling my now ex like, hey, watch my birds, and
Yeah.
here's all the contact information for my family. He knew him, but here's all the
Yeah.
contact info for my family. Here's passwords, all that stuff. It was, we had cell phones, but they weren't smartphones. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
very different world.
The old flip phones with just the
Yeah.
buttons. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now for you doing your will and things like that, you know, was that difficult for you to do? Like, did it like mentally mess with you at all or anything like that?
Yeah. The person I had, person I had been with for the past 3 years, I couldn't easily put him on any of my paperwork.
Right.
I couldn't leave my assets um, to Steve, or plan to leave my assets. I remember going into Navy Federal to have him put on my accounts, and them saying, "Why are you putting this person you have no relation to on your accounts?"
Yeah.
I couldn't say, "Well, that's my boyfriend."
Yeah.
And F you for even asking that question.
Yeah.
Steve did. So he was very friendly. Everyone in the band knew him. I mean, it was probably the world's worst kept secret. But and the spouses and everything kind of included him. There were some amazing people who I guess saw past the policy and stuff, and included him in the spouses, I guess, club or cohort.
Right.
So that was really encouraging. But I mean, on paper, I couldn't list them. I had to have understanding with my family. Hey, if anything happens, you need to help support Steve because I've got contracts in my name. I've got a condo and all this stuff.
Wow. That had to have been like just really mess with your mind. And especially I'm leading up going to combat, and the unknown. You don't know what it's going to be like. And at that point, nobody really knew.
Yeah. And to think I was doing all of this and knowing that the stated policy of the government was you are not enough to serve in the military. To know I didn't have 100% support was just, therapy material right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, so you get on the bird and you fly over, I'm assuming Kuwait, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So kind of talk to me like as you're coming in, you're still the unknown a little bit. So you're getting there, kind of how did it all unfold for you?
So I remember we left from March Air Force Base, and it was a Hawaiian Airlines jet that we took over. So the flight attendants were all, you could see it in their eyes. They knew they were bringing us over for deployment, and they were trying to be very respectful and everything. But I remember landing in Kuwait and the flight attendants saying, I fly all the time now. And they always say, bye, thank you. Them just saying, mahalo. And you could see it in their eyes that they knew that there's a possibility that some of the people wouldn't be coming back. So we got off the plane, and I remember looking around the airport, and like the airport tower, there were still some unpatched damage from the Iraqi invasion.
Oh, wow.
10 years before. I just remember looking around going, I've seen this on television in, history reels and things.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then we got on buses, and went out to a lovely spot in the desert, LSA Matilda, which literally was a spot in the desert with some tents. And we were there for a month or so. That's where I figured out, okay, I'm a night owl. So always take the sergeant of the guard shifts or officer of the day shifts at night. I could sleep during the day. It was an interesting experience because there was the Marine Corps. We don't have patches that say what unit we're in or anything. So the band kind of as a group kind of came up. I don't remember where it came from exactly, but we became known as TFB or Task Force Band or the fucking and it was just this, people would say, "Oh, what unit are you with?" Oh, TFB. Rather than saying the band. Not that we weren't proud of it, but just that we didn't want to have to tell some Lance Corporal who thought he was, hot shit, who we were.
Yeah.
And yeah, that it became business as usual. Like, okay, we're sleeping in tents now.
And you're basically just standing post, security, those types of things.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We had an embedded reporter with us.
Oh, wow.
I don't why in God's name they assigned him to the band, but I'm trying to remember his name, John Burnett from NPR.
Okay.
Like he was sleeping in our giant tent and things. And I remember one day, we all had these 1 liter bottles and would put tea in them,
Yeah.
to make the water palatable. And it was me, Trace Martinez, Will Contreras, we're all kind of sitting up in the front of the tent. And John was up in the front. He woke up, kind of rolled over, grabbed a bottle to take his morning drink, took
Oh,
it off, took a
no.
drink, and we're all like, it was someone's spit bottle. And him going, I think I did a very bad thing, and ran out of the tent to
Oh,
puke.
I'm sure he was puking like it was crazy.
Yeah, but
Oh,
that has definitely contributed to my horrible sense of humor because I found it funny.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Um,
we're laughing about it now, so.
exactly.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it was kind of just business as usual. Security would do the entry and exit points.
Hmm.
I was a staff sergeant. No, I was a sergeant at the time. Um, so every once in a while, I would have to stand some type of sentry post, but for the most part, I was doing sergeant of the guard work. So
Yeah.
it was, I think I had the best possible experience there. I wasn't digging holes. That's good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then similar to the lead up to the deployment, we got okay, you're gonna advance to the border. And we're like, okay, get up and move everything. Yeah, now we're gonna go back to Matilda, pack up, go back to the border, and then come back. I think probably the third or fourth time, it was we got word that this was the real time.
Yeah.
Um, and I just this is tough. So I remember middle of the night, kind of walking out of the tent, and we were quartering party for the commanding general,
Hmm.
Jim Mattis. So everywhere he went, we went, which
Yeah.
I guess to the layman sounds like, okay, cool, you're with the general. That's cushy. Not this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I just remember walking out at night and looking as we were starting the artillery fire into Iraq. And I think one of the most striking memories I have is there were people with like folding chairs who just went out and were watching it like it was fireworks.
Right?
Uh,
Kind of like it was 4th of July and they're just sitting back watching them go.
yeah.
Wow.
And it's
Well, I
one of
mean,
those things. Good.
I imagine it was quite a show though.
It was an amazing show. It was, nothing like it. I've never seen anything like it. I have, but it was later. Um, but it was truly that moment of, okay, this is really cool. That's really pretty. Holy shit. Each one of those explosions is representing an explosion. That's people dying. That's
Yeah.
people getting injured. Again, good, bad, and different for why we were there. The reality is those flashes were, yeah,
Yeah. Death and destruction is what it
yeah,
was. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And
yeah,
that was what did they call it? Something Hill.
Safwan Hill.
Safwan Hill, that's right. Okay.
Yep.
And which they almost leveled from my understanding. Yeah.
That's the scuttlebutt, as they say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at that point, after all that goes down, this is when you guys are going to push into Iraq, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So they, do their initial volleys and everything, and then we jump on the Humvees and push north. And I remember I was in the last Humvee, so we were the tail gunner, we were the rear security, and we had built a table out of wood for the saw to sit on.
Oh my God.
Because we didn't have mounts.
Yeah.
We strapped it down and put sandbags and everything around it. I remember it was Neil Tusing's birthday. That when we actually breached and went over. And he was in my Humvee with me. And I just remember, like, what did we talk about? Like, we're driving into another country, uninvited. I remember the sign that said no U.S. personnel beyond this point. And thinking, like, so how was your MRE? Like, complete normalization of the experience. It was interesting.
Huh. Yeah. I like how you put it, the normalization of it. It does it. I don't know. There's something weird about that in my mind, but it's true though.
Yeah, it's what you do to survive mentally,
Yeah, most definitely. So what was the experience like? So you were with the CG at this point. So he's probably, I'm assuming, bouncing from place to place, because I mean, it's Jim Mattis. He liked to be where the action was.
Yeah.
So how was that for you guys?
I don't know that we knew any different. So it was. I remember there was one time in particular. Recon goes out, assesses the situation, finds the next spot, and then more of the quartering party goes in. I remember at one point we were kind of trying to figure out where we were. We had gotten a little bit lost. We were ahead of recon, ahead of everyone, and just that feeling of I don't think this is supposed to happen. When we figured it out, we did the little herringbone, and everyone got out of the vehicles, and we established a perimeter. And I wish I could remember his name. He was a major. Our company commander. We had established this big perimeter and everything.
Right.
All of a sudden, he kind of gives the signal that everyone stops. We may have been in a minefield.
Oh no!
So I remember kind of it being communicated. Hey, everyone, stay where you are. And I was Major Davis, I think was his name.
Okay.
I remember him. I was in his group. He's like, okay, we're gonna walk back to the Humvees, and you need to have your feet in exactly the spot of the person in front of you.
Oh my God.
And so he's going and take a step, and we were 3 meters apart. I don't know. So he'd go, and I'm like looking at the grass, going, "Okay, is that where he stepped?" I'm thinking, "What the? I'm a tuba player. Why am I doing this?" So, but that was one of those moments where it was like, okay, you've got 2 options. You can fall on the ground and start crying and kicking and screaming, or you can deal with the situation and just push through it. 2 options. There were probably other sub options, but those are the major ones. And I just remember saying, okay, I want to get through this, and that's what we did. So that was kind of emblematic, or that was kind of the situation there. It was a lot of CG wants to move. Okay, would quartering party would go out, and whatever shenanigans would happen.
Holy cow. And then how long did you do that? Like as you were moving forward?
I don't remember. Felt like months, but it wasn't. It was just until we pushed to north into Baghdad.
Okay.
And then we stayed in Baghdad for a while and went back to Kuwait.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. When you guys were pushing up, you're all in mop gear as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I can't even imagine being in mop gear in the desert. It was hot enough without mop gear,
right,
let alone in mop gear.
Yep. It's funny, to this day, when I can't sleep, I will go and sleep on the floor because that's the most comfortable spot for me. And I think it probably came from that.
Yeah.
We didn't have cots and things. We were just sleeping on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
trying to make the most of the bad situation. But yeah, mop gear. Remember having my gas mask on my leg. I guess I was lucky. I had a handgun, not a M16, so I didn't have to
Yeah.
truck that thing around. But
Wow.
learned to make the most of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then now you spent what, like a month or so in Baghdad?
Yeah, we were there for a while.
Okay. And what
Yeah,
were you guys doing in Baghdad?
so we were again security for the general.
Hmm.
Whenever he'd go out, I should say we augmented security.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't the prime. Um, Mostly, again, I was a sergeant,
Hmm.
communications NCO. So while we were in Baghdad, I was making sure that we could talk to all the posts around that. We called it the secret police headquarters. I don't know what it actually is. I can point to it on a map, but there's all
Yeah.
these really tall buildings, and we it was just managing the guard, um, and in my off time, going and exploring the buildings. And I
Oh, wow.
I remember at one point, so there were like the living quarters for whatever Iraqi government agency, uh,
Hmm.
and we didn't know what we were looking for. We were just exploring, and most of them had abandoned that well before the U.S. pushed in. Um, each of the rooms or each of the apartments had safes in them. Most of them were open. Um,
Oh, wow.
I remember a senior staff NCO who shall remain nameless, um, convincing me to help him try to open one of these safes. And I'm like, I'm not going to open the safe, but there were probably 10 or 11-story buildings. So we waited till just about nightfall and we pushed it off the building. Didn't open. Uh, Looking back on it, I can imagine that very loud boom probably scared a few people. But you know,
Yeah.
hey, I was with the unnamed senior staff NCO, so
Yeah, 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 yeah. So you were covered.
um,
You were covered.
yeah, I was covered. Um,
Wow.
yeah, but it, so we while we were there, we also, I think at that time we got our instruments back. Um,
Okay.
Folks, a lot of the buglers were going out and doing different details, colors, and
Hmm.
memorial ceremonies.
Yeah.
Um, it, I think so. We were separated from the women in the unit. The
Oh, okay.
the women all went off to be Marine liaisons to the hospital corps.
Oh,
I
wow.
think this was about when they came back. Um, and I remember there were a couple folks. I mean, for reasons that, whatever, I was really close with the women in the group.
Hmm.
And I remember them coming back and just being different. Um,
Mm.
and your your experience is kind of your own, and it shapes who you are. But
Yeah.
they, I found out later, they were dealing with when Marines were injured.
Hmm.
They would figure out who they were, what unit they were with, and start the process of contacting their families. Um,
Oh, wow.
just some of the stories and dealing with their trying to be a friend through them processing that trauma was just insane. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't my experience. It was just being there for them, but that just had such a profound impact on me.
Yeah. And that's a tough job. I
Yeah.
don't care what anybody would say. That is a tough job.
Yeah.
Seeing the aftermath of, war, and hey, I got to help them, yeah, contact families and stuff. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep. Um, So yeah, all the different shenanigans and things that happened there. It was, I guess I'm minimizing it. We went from Safwan up to Baghdad, and there was definitely there are a lot of experiences to be had there that go along um, with that, I suppose. Sandstorms, not being able to see my hand in front of me, um, you know, not being able to get from. We provided perimeter security as the quartering party. So I remember going out to check on the fighting positions or the, I guess, defensive positions. And the storm kicked up. And I mean, I look out my window now, I could probably see where it was. The storm came in. I couldn't figure out where I was.
Oh, wow.
I found Chief One Officer Edmondson was with me at the time, and we made the decision to just hunker down in a Humvee, which is probably not the right place. I think that's against, you don't want to sleep in a vehicle because it's a big target.
Yeah.
But, I remember thinking, okay, we can't see outside of our perimeter. They likely can't see in. We wouldn't see if anyone came into our perimeter, and just going, I need to sleep. So, we just found a place to sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. And I imagine sand probably got literally everywhere. Like there's probably no place that didn't have sand.
No, absolutely not. I think I'm still picking sand out of my ears. But again, I was in a different position than the folks who were sleeping in the holes.
Yeah.
I remember once it cleared, walking out and just seeing, people with their goggles on. The Marines would take them off, and there'd be the circles around them.
Oh my God.
Trying to clean the weapons and clear them. Like,
oh God,
this is probably our most exposed we've ever been, because we, all the weapons are jammed. They're apart and being cleaned. So yeah.
Wow.
Fun times.
Yeah. Yep. Well, okay. And then what was at this point you guys started traveling back down to retrograde?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we were in Baghdad for a while. And then we started the retrograde, and it was basically the same thing in reverse.
Okay.
While we were in Baghdad, I remember hearing on the radio the president making his mission accomplished speech, and me sitting there, we're kind of at a little compound. I'm like, mission accomplished. Hearing gunfire in the background, I'm like, okay, it's a positive message. It's an interpretation.
Yeah.
What, 10, 15 years later, we're still doing it.
Still accomplishing.
Yeah. Bet you're happy you had that banner made.
Yeah.
And then, then we made it back to Kuwait. And that was a very different experience. There were PXs there. There were tents, but you could go and buy things. There were phones.
So from the time that you guys started, like you got into Kuwait, right, and head north, how much time had passed from there to you coming back, and now there's PXs and stuff?
3 months, maybe.
Oh my God.
And so this is where the cynical side of me steps in. And jumping back to us at Safwan Hill, getting ready to push across the border.
Yeah.
I remember we had radios, of course, like, FM radios. I remember hearing them saying that the offensive, or I can't remember the word that was used, the action against Iraq had started, famous shock and awe speech.
Yeah.
And, just watching that, then might have been the next day, updates on the radio, them saying, the largest humanitarian convoy in history is on the border of Kuwait ready to liberate the Iraqi people. And I remember it was the highway, the highway of death from a
Yeah.
previous conflict. Um, I remember seeing this massive convoy of orange trucks. Like, that's interesting. Halliburton.
Yeah. Okay.
And just kind of going, well, that's weird. It's private enterprise, but okay. And just seeing the massive war serves political means, war serves
Oh
financial
yeah.
means.
Yeah. They made a
You know,
buku money off of that war, that's for sure.
that they did. And that just, I think that framed my experience of, okay, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a part of this. So
Yeah.
just, so anyway, flashback, we get to Kuwait. There was, it was Camp Commando, maybe?
That
Uh,
sounds familiar.
Whatever they called the little tent city.
Mm-hmm.
It burned down while we were there. Uh, there, we couldn't get out of that place fast enough. I send me back to Iraq. I didn't want to sit in Kuwait in this tent city that was just a mess. Um, so
You said it burned down.
yeah, there was a fire and it took out most of the camp. Um,
Wow.
who knew that fabric tents burned?
Huh. Go figure.
Yeah, they should have. No, I won't say that. Um, Probably shouldn't have gone with the lowest bid.
Yeah.
But
Government contracting. Gotta love it.
exactly. Uh, yeah. So then we came back to the U.S. Um, Found that, I think a lot of people broke up with their partners not soon after returning from Iraq. Um,
Okay.
I was, yeah, that was a bad time because remember what I said about the female Marines? Their lives and
Mm-hmm.
experiences kind of diverged. Same thing when you're
Yeah.
deployed. You have
Oh yeah.
experiences, the people at home have different experiences, and you
Mm-hmm.
expect to be able to pick up right where you left. Um, so,
Doesn't always work out that way though.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I got transferred to Third Maw not soon after.
Well,
Um,
that's where I crossed paths with you for a short amount of time because you, if I'm not mistaken, when I showed up, you had just gotten back,
yeah,
like within probably a couple of months,
yeah,
uh, and then you guys, and I thank you for one, you guys helping me out and pulling me into the unit and being good to me, because that could have been bad. So, but no, you guys did a fantastic job with that. But
thanks.
and then you were at Pendleton probably like 4 or 5 months, and then you went down to Third Mall, right?
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And I went over to Third Maw. Very different experience.
Yeah.
And that that was uh, that was an experience. At that point, I decided, okay, I want to stay in. I had probably topped out at where my tuba mastery would ever reach.
Okay.
There was, I knew if I went back to the School of Music, it wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
Um, so I tried to lap move out. I tried multiple times. There was a stage manager position at the President's Own that uh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I had applied for, got really far, but I had some bad things in my credit history. Um,
Uh,
I'll do it. Um, I tried to go into like networking, things like that, and they
mm,
wouldn't let me out of the band field. I was at this point, I was a staff sergeant, um,
mm,
and they're like, "Well, why would we? You're a staff NCO. You would have to
yeah.
you know, start with NCOs and things like that." So I was like, "Okay, well, if that's the case, I'm just gonna get out." Um, and I started the process of getting out. It was pretty quick going from, okay, I want to finish 12 more years, um, to, okay, I'm just going to get out and, not look back.
And now, how much time were you at Third Mall before you said, okay, I'm going to take off and get out?
Maybe 5 months.
Oh, wow. That is really quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, yeah, it was, I think if the, I think if I had been at Division, things would have been different. But the Third Maw and Air Wing was just like, we've got a list of people who want to be in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was a tough time. It was me readjusting and figuring out how to rationalize the experience I had over the past year.
Yeah.
And luckily, a really good friend of mine, someone who had gotten kicked out from Don't Ask, Don't Tell, was still living in San Diego. And he's like, "Hey, man, you need to get away from San Diego. This is not not good for your life.
Yeah.
You want to move to Texas with me?" And his friend at the time, I'm like, Texas? Why would I ever go there? But like, Texas, they lost the war, right? And I looked at New Hampshire and realized there were no jobs. Like unless I wanted to work at a hotel at the time, there were no real jobs. So I kind of rolled the dice and said, "Yeah, I'll move to Texas for, maybe 2-3 months max until I figured out what I want to do with my life."
Yeah.
Moved here, met my now husband, and 20 years later, I'm still in Texas.
Yeah. 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 And then now, Austin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Austin, Texas, which by the way gets really hot. Like whenever I came down to visit, yeah, it was hot, man. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
At least it's humid.
Yeah. Well, you gotta take the, I don't know, bad with the bad. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, but a nice area still yet, even though it was really hot, it was still a nice area. And it's pretty cool area, I think, anyways.
Yeah.
So and while you were down there or still there, what were you doing as far as work at that point?
So when I got out, I had at least what I thought, no marketable skills. I didn't have a degree. Um, I worked customer service at AT&T
No
for a little
kidding.
while. Yeah. Um, and just I was making it work, making
Yeah.
less than $11 an hour, trying to get my life in order and stuff.
Yeah.
But I eventually worked into project management and finished my undergrad.
Very
Um,
nice.
yeah. Once things kind of settled, okay, I say things settled. That was about 15 years. Took me a while. I started thinking, okay, how do I turn this military experience into something else? Like, how do I turn
Yeah.
it into something good? And I shouldn't say it that way. How do I give back?
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting involved with the VFW.
Mm-hmm.
And when we met in Austin, we met at the VFW post down in Pilot Knob, 8925.
Yep.
Um, I was really super skeptical about getting involved in the VFW because
Yeah.
my experience was people aren't going to like me for me.
Right.
I found with the VFW, it was okay. Do you want to be involved? What do you bring as far as
Mm-hmm.
skills and how can you help the community? Um, and they elected me commander my first year, no, second year there. I'm now on my second term as commander. Um, it's been a rewarding experience, and I like helping veterans and their families get
Mm-hmm.
access to services, um,
Yeah.
not feel like they're alone, and that's really I like being a part of an organization that looks beyond self. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why I joined the military in the first place. I say it was to pay for college and kind of very flippant comments, but it was how do I do I was searching for something in myself, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
found it in the community that was the Marine Corps and service. So I want to continue that.
Yeah, that's very nice. And the VFW does some fantastic things. It's really a great organization. So, and that the sense of family or the
Yeah.
sense of brotherhood, sisterhood type of thing is strong, in the veteran community, especially VFW posts and stuff, or at least from what I've seen. So,
Yeah, I mean it's the when you think of of the VFW, you can kind
hmm
of go a couple ways. You think of um, people all dressed in suits, wearing those hats, speaking to
yeah.
Congress, or you
hmm
think of the red poppies that you can buy, and a little post that may be dark and smoky, but it's where veterans gather.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Man, that's cool. Well, over your entire Marine Corps experience and over, of course, your civilian time after, and to include the VFW, kind of what is words of wisdom that you want to leave with everybody?
Hmm. Understand where people are coming from. We all have different experiences that affect how we process situations and information, and
hmm
be sensitive that your experience may be different from the person you're talking to. um,
Yeah.
and it all comes down to empathy. Have
Yeah.
empathy, and um, know we're all in this together. I think
Yeah.
that's the best thing. And
Okay.
if you need mental health services, get
Mm,
them. There's no shame in it, none whatsoever.
absolutely. Yeah. And I would say from your time when you came back and then again after I came back, mental getting mental health services was not high on the let's discuss topics, right? Or at least that I found. And it
Yeah.
was, I won't say it was discouraged, but there was a stigma behind it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think over time, at least now, active duty side, they have completely shifted, which is a good thing, and nobody's really looking at it in that light anymore, which is I don't know. I
That's
think
good
it's
to
really
hear.
good. Yeah, but then you have guys like us and older who that was not our mentality, and it is hard to reach out for help, but it's so important to do so.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you. I thank you for coming on and doing this again, going through the whole story one more time for me because of my inability.
Oh, did I lose you? We'll give it a second. Oh,
Hello.
there you go.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. I don't know how much you heard of me talking. Uh, thanks
You stopped
for
on inability.
uh, huh. Oh, my inability to be able to actually record. So thank you for and coming back on and doing this. I really appreciate it. And it's great hearing your story. I think a lot of people get something out of it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time and get out and vote.
Yeah, get out and vote. That's right. Important. Yeah, and because we are currently right now, we're what, 5 days?
As of
Four
filming,
four
we're
days.
4 days away.
Yeah, that's craziness. It went by quick though.
It did. It did. Much like a deployment, it drags
Yeah.
on while you're in it, but looking back, it's quick.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thanks again, man. I appreciate it. To all the listeners out there, if you're struggling or anything like that, don't forget that the VA does have some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options are going to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. I know Mike cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies that you served with and just ask how they're doing. If they need a helping hand, please do so. All right, Mike, I truly appreciate it. To all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks. All right, let me.